Hey, Wakusa, what's going on? It's your Ndugu, Shaka Jajaga Shakur, aka M. Casa the Bush Doctor, coming back at you with another episode of African Talk, where Africans talk worldwide. And as always, I hope you're having a great day. I hope your family is good and safe. And most importantly, we pray that the Creator and the ancestors guide my words in the right, not the wrong direction. So let's get at another episode of African Talk. All right, family, we back once again. Yo, today's episode, I wanna touch on a few things in the entirety of the episode. So if I bounce around a little bit, follow me. But before I go any further, I want to say, yo, thank you for the people who are subscribing, helping to push this out further. Again, I'm the type of dude, I don't care if you agree or disagree, you're all welcome as long as we're respectful to one another because I feel this needs to get out. I'm not doing it to get rich. I'm doing it because there's information that needs to go out to our people as a whole. And I thank you for your support and just let's keep doing it, right? Okay, so let's get into it. I want to talk about excuse me, the situation we're dealing with. I mean, right now you have a person in charge. I don't even like to use the term president. A person in charge of this country who is actively holding back funds that could feed the masses of people that he is supposed to be in charge of, right? So that is a situation within itself. How do I feel about it? On one hand, I want to be like I told you so because I kind of did. I told you to get prepared that this is real, but it's not just me, many people. But we are here nevertheless. So, what are the solutions? Okay, let's talk about it. The first thing, I was responsible for creating a program based on programs called the People Survival Program. And it started because when I was in the New Black Panther Party, we had a lot of original Panther members who were telling us, like, yo, y'all got a good heart, y'all doing good, but you don't have any programs. Like, you're not helping people, actually helping them. So I was like, yeah, they're right. So we went and we actually sat down and studied all of the programs of the Black Panther Party of the 60s. And we figured out which ones would or would not work. So we started it. Now, through it, we went on to not only just provide food for people, but then clothing came. Eventually, housing came because we started meeting other organizations that were doing things. And instead of trying to reduplicate what they're already doing, we just included them. So there was an organization called Picture the Homeless. I don't even know if they're still around, but they were the ones who were responsible for helping people get shelter. So instead of trying to outdo them, we was like, hey, this is what we're doing. Come on, get involved and leave your information out there. So we had a thing called an information table. So imagine a long line. You come, you get your food. After you get your food, you get clothing. And at the end was a table with just all this information about everything from, if you're seeking shelter, if you need help financially, whatever it is, education is a pamphlet on that table. And eventually representatives started coming and getting involved in themselves. And this led to eventually we had a sister come out who was part of the party who was a nurse. So she started giving people like just basic blood pressure checks on the spot, advice about, their medicine. Because we were like, we're not here to tell you what to do, but we want you to know what's going on. So if you got medication, you bring it, and she would tell you, well, that means this, and these are the side effects of this. That means this, and this is that. So now you're going in there equipped. You're not just going there blind and being treated like a guinea pig. You know what they're talking about. So you can be like, nah, I don't want that because I heard the side effects of this, or I do want that. Whatever it is, be equipped. So I'm saying that to say that now is when we need to do this. You see what I'm saying? So we shouldn't be looking at this situation as if this man in so-called power has all the power. No, what he's doing is he's equipping the masses to do for self now. Now's the time we do for self. Now's the time. All these different groups that I know that are doing successful feeding programs in communities, now you increase your effort. There are food banks that are definitely out there providing food for the masses, right? But those food banks are under government restriction. They can only do but so much, and they're going to run out after a while. And they're going to have to turn to that same source for more supplies, and they're not going to get it. He's not going to give it to them. So this is where you come in, revolutionary. This is where you come in with your program. and you give further assistance to the people. You make sure that they understand not just to come here and get food, but we're going to show you how to work together. We're going to reinstitute community. Community. That's the key. I remember one time I was at a disaster preparedness seminar, and the guy speaking was like, he said, all these gadgets and all this is not how you're going to survive, a shit hit the fan scenario. No, he said, you're going to survive that scenario because you're going to be united with your next door neighbor. That's how you survive. He said, it's community that helps you survive, not how much gear you got saved up or how much food you got on the shelf. If you don't have a community, you're going to fail. So that's the same thing with us. We have to start implementing that. Now, I know certain groups that I know personally that have programs in their community on a regular. Big ups to them. Big up to you. Big up to you. That's what you have to do. You have to secure your immediate base, because what we're going to do is not about trying to save everybody or be everywhere. That's not where it's at. What it's really at, and where it really is at, is about designing functional models that other people can emulate. When we designed the People Survival Program, the idea was not to keep doing it forever. The idea was to take it, go places, do it, and then teach them to do it, and then leave and let them do for self. Now you have duplicated yourself in several places, right? So now we know our people are territorial. Look, we beefing now about being FBA or I'm indigenous or I'm this, I'm that. This is what we do. It's not going to stop, unfortunately. It's sickening, but it ain't going nowhere. Or we are this kind of organization, we're that kind of organization. It ain't going nowhere. That tribal warfare is deep in our roots. It's deep in our blood. We're gonna do that. So rather than fighting that obstacle, hell, send a couple of your people over here and let us show you how we do this. As a matter of fact, you get the community that you got. So and I'm just making up names now. I'm not going at nobody. This is not personal. I'm just want to show you with real concrete examples. You're a Hebrew Israelite. You're a Moor. You're a 5%er. You're I don't know, this kind of Muslim. That's the religion, right? Or you're a Rasta, or you're a Black Panther, or you are this or that, or whatever you are. Great, stay there. Do that. We're not here to argue about that. Do that. But let me come in and show you how to set up this program that you do not have. How about that? And you can now control your territory for real, for real. Instead of just talking online about your identification status, you can actually assist people. See, that's what it boils down to. It's not the romantic, posing with the gun and all. We gonna defend the community. You defend the community by organizing the community. You defend the community by teaching the community to be self-dependent while being interdependent. See, because true independence, true liberation has to have interdependence. You can't just be out there by yourself. It ain't gonna work. Trust me, I'm telling you, it ain't gonna work. So you have to lock in. That's why, which comes to my next point, this is no time for division amongst our people. When poor white people who are realizing slowly every day that they have been duped by the person that they voted for strictly out of racist ideology, they voted for this man because he told them it ain't gonna happen to you. All the things, the wall, the ICE agents, and all this, the cutting off of benefits, they were poor whites, average white people, average Europeans, average Caucasian people were gassed into believing that they were not part of those people, when in actuality they are. So now they're starting to realize, right? And then they're starting to realize that they are being duped. You can best believe that there is a fraction of them who will become violent. And the ones who are in position of law enforcement or any kind of authority within this system, as this system begins to corrode, which it is corroding right in front of your face, those agents of the system will double down on their racist behavior. They will double down because they don't want if they losing. And then before I lose, I'm gonna double down, let you know I'm in charge. So he's gonna set loose the dogs. And we have to be organized. So if you want to be and I'm gonna call the different descriptions. Are you an indigenous African, or you are or FBA, or whatever you are? You don't want to be with a holistic African approach. You want to have a section over here or a section over there, go right ahead. But if your sections do not include certain specifics, you're useless. If you're a Pan Africanist and you like to get online and argue about the ideology of Pan Africanism and how important it is, which it is, but you're not applying it to your immediate situation, you're useless. How are you a Black nationalist and you're not creating, sustaining, or maintaining a nation? You're useless. And it is time for the useless rhetoric to stop. I told somebody the other day, I don't like to talk unless I'm teaching. If I'm not teaching, there's nothing to talk about. We should be doing. And you should be doing it simultaneously. You could pick a lane, but it's like being in the military. I remember I watched this movie. I forgot the movie. But the guy came, he was a photographer, right? He said, I'm just here to document. I feel like I can help most by getting the story back to the mainland. And in the end of we were soldiers. In the end of the movie, they got attacked. They got overrun. And he was like, the guy was like, yo, pick up a gun and let's get with this. He was like, no, sir, I'm a non-combatant. He said, man, ain't nobody non-combatant out here. You better get the combatant. And that's the same thing I'm saying. Yes, I do. I make these videos to put information out there. I'm working on literature and all that other stuff. But I am not a non-combatant. I also roll my sleeves up and I get in the community. And I go places, from place to place, sharing my knowledge, helping others to get on their feet. I don't have to be in an organization to do that. And that's the thing. Once you learn your nia, your purpose, you realize this is what I do. This is what I live. It's not an organization. I don't have to be an organization. I did that already. I have to be organized and I have to move in an organized fashion. I could be in a collective and get that done. I could be in a temporary agreement and get that done. I can have temporary solidarity for purpose and principle and get that done. Because I understand that this enemy does not care about my specific identification or my specific recognition of where I belong in a genealogical tree. He don't care about none of that. They took food out your mouth because they can. And they're keeping food out of your mouth because they can. And if you're not actively figuring out how we're going to solve this, you are useless. Period. Period. You have deep AI fakes out here of young Black people raiding and looting stores. That I watched about 5 of them. I was like, these are not even real. And then they showed a clip that was an outdated clip of some young Black people, unfortunately, running through one of these stores, going, doing a thing. And they tried to associate that with what's going on now, to criminalize Black youth and make Black youth the scapegoat for all of this. And you get white podcasters who create whole shows around that, and they spread that paranoia because they're paid to spread that paranoia. They're paid to spread that confusion. And there are Black people that do that too. There are Black people that are paid to keep you fighting amongst yourselves. They're paid to keep you arguing about frivolous, nonsensical bullshit instead of getting together. They're paid to keep you doing this instead of this. Solutions is what we should be talking about. Get in your community. Identify a small group, a small area, a park, Make it a liberated park. Take it over. Take the park over. Turn it into a safe space. In your families, reinstitute the family dinner, not just on this so-called Thanksgiving. Hell, I do Jiname the next day. Jiname is the African-centered celebration of life and harvest and plenty that we have created by Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad and taught to us with others, but taught to us. We understand that you only get out of work at that time. Okay. So I need you to not support Thanksgiving. Don't go out and buy a whole bunch of food for one day. No. On the next day, which is technically Black Friday. So to keep you from not spending money with them, on the next day, that Friday after Thanksgiving, is Jiname Day, where you give thanks for your ancestors, you give thanks for your family, you give thanks for the plentiful food and all that other stuff in the tradition of what it's supposed to be. Now I know some of you are going to do Thanksgiving because you're going to say, "Well, my family do." Okay, well, fine, do both days. I don't care, but just do your family, and then make a promise to your family that going forward, once a month, y'all gonna get together and eat. If you got let's say you got some family members in New York and some in Chicago and some in Detroit, and maybe you got a couple of them down in Atlanta somewhere, right? Miami, Florida, whatever, North Carolina, you're scattered. So you pick captains in your family. So if you got family in New York, North Carolina, New Jersey, South Carolina, and let's say Atlanta and Chicago, that's 6 places. You should have 6 captains on the phone discussing how we're going to maintain a regional unity as a family. That means everybody in Chicago, that one captain in Chicago is responsible for organizing the monthly dinners in Chicago. Same thing with all the other places. And then you don't need a phone call with a whole bunch of people on the line. No, you need the 6 captains that you as a family choose to represent each region. And then you get together and say, okay, well, we got grandma here or auntie there, uncle there, we're gonna celebrate their birthdays or whatever this way. Or then eventually from those dinners, you get back to having family reunions. These family reunions, I got news for you. Historically, a Black family reunion was not just to go celebrate and drink beer. It was a time when we would get together to discuss family business, to settle scores, work some things out. You know, After slavery, which did exist, by the way, we were scattered. So as we begin to reunite, we begin to organize to make sure that we don't ever get scattered again. So once a year, we come together. Maybe more, but once a year, we come together. And you bring the babies and the newborns and all this other stuff. Everybody come together and get to know each other so we can tighten our bonds even more. Maybe somebody passed away or we didn't know this had. Now we know. They didn't have internet back then. So they had to come together. We have let technology make us weak. So now we got to get back to that. So you got your regional captains and you locking down each region. So your family is the Jones family or the the Shakur family, whatever your family name is. Y'all are represented all over. You squash those internal beefs. You get together as captain. You say, hey, we cousin so and so ain't talking to cousin so and so. Let's squash that. And if they can't get along, fine, but don't allow their contention to destroy the overall unity. And you can all be the cousins from Chicago, do the Chicago step and all that other stuff. You the cousin from North Carolina, y'all do what y'all do. New York, do what you do. Nobody got to give up their personal regional cultures, but you work together for the benefit of the family. And that same model, working model, like I told you, you need a working model. That same working model, now let's take that to the bigger stage. You want to be a Moor? Go right ahead. You don't want to be associated with Africa? Fine. You want to be, an indigenous African, or you say you the original indigenous people? Fine. Go ahead, say all that. Fine. You want to be a Black nationalist? Fine. It doesn't matter. We're going to pick the most qualified, level-headed, factual, intellectual leaders in each group. And that's all y'all need to talk to. I don't need to talk to your rank and file because we're going to have an argument. I just need to talk to the diplomat, the representative from your crew that is qualified in diplomacy so that we can address real issues. That's what we need. We keep talking about it. We need our own UN, our own United Nations. And if you are not qualified to be that person, stand down. And when we get together, we need to not discuss, well, I'm a this and you are that. No, fuck, excuse me, later for all of that. That's not what we need to discuss. We need to be discussing what works in your community. How are you addressing the lack of SNAP in your area? How are you addressing the new ICE threat? These law enforcement going crazy across the country. How are you addressing that in your community? How are you dealing with the teen violence or the domestic violence or just violence in general? How are you dealing with the housing situation? Or do you have community gardens? If so, how do you do that? How do you set up that? How are we as a nation combating the education deficit? Are we still crying to these people about teaching us? Why are we not setting up our own schools? You done beat up Umar Johnson. No more. That's not an excuse no more. You smart enough to research all this information to tell me where you didn't come from. But your ass ain't smart enough to put a program together to teach basic education to people in your community. Make it make sense. You can get on the internet and come with all these deep research, whether they facts or not. You did your research. I'll give you that. You attempted. You went to try to find something. So if your behind is smart enough to do that, why the rest of your community ain't doing that? Why you not building a school? You don't have to agree with history to teach it. You say it ain't right, then spend your life proving it wrong. Right? That's what you do. Well, people can't read and write. And you arguing me about where you come from. But you have no solidarity, no structure, no program, no nothing. You just telling me we ain't the same. That is something for me to watch out for. Because now, what are you doing? Are you here to just separate us? I made up my mind. I didn't want to be with no organizations no more. I'm not doing that no more. That don't mean I stop working. That don't mean I stop communicating and stop getting work done. No, that just means that I don't want to do it in that fashion. But I have a plethora of experience that I'm going to give up. And I'm giving you game right now. And guess what? I didn't create that game. You know where that game came from? Me studying the ones before me. Some I agreed with, some I didn't agree with their personal ideologies, but their floor plan was awesome. Hell, I even studied people that don't look like me because I was able to take what they did and make it work for people that look like me. You know why? Because I am about liberation. And I'm not eyeing like I'm the shit. No, I as in there are a group of us who think like this. We don't have time for that small talk anymore. There is a global effort by white supremacy in its last dying breath to either recolonize or destroy the planet. Period. I was reading today in Africa, Tanzania, the woman that's the president there, she's like, I ain't giving up. So there's a civil war going on there. Now Tanzania is added to the list of countries that are destabilizing in Africa. In the Caribbean, Puerto Rico got hit with a storm. They didn't get no money. And I'm talking black and so-called Latino. It's the Caribbean, right? Poverty is crazy down there. Not saying people ain't making it, but we know the poverty. And it's not poverty because of anything other than sanctions and, deliberate effort being made to limit their ability to come up. That's attacking there. UK, racism is out of control over there. America, forget about it. South America, everywhere. This is a frantic race for regaining of a power that they see fading out. This point in the American political reality is the perfect opportunity for us as a black people to get our shit together, because the enemy, if we'll stop fighting one another, we could look and see that they, the European power structure, male dominated white supremacist structure, is doing everything that we have been saying they're about. They just out with it right now. So I need people to really get to, if you really care about people, your people, then you should be out here setting up a program, not arguing on the internet about where you come from. Now you have Europeans jumping in the discussion between us. When have you ever seen any group of Europeans, I don't care whoever they are, allow black people to get in the middle and pick a side in their argument? I'm waiting. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting. It never happened. And it never will happen. But we're so thirst for validation because we don't know our purpose. We don't have Nia. We don't know our purpose, so we look for validation. So whenever a Caucasian of any group says anything that you saying, you go, yeah, right, see, told you. No, no. They don't get to speak on this. I don't care if I don't get it along with people of certain ideologies within the black race. I am smart enough to know that I ain't gonna let you get in on this argument. It's got nothing to do with you. I'm not so wrapped up and consumed with self-hate that I'm gonna seek the validation of the very same people who put me in the position that I'm in right now. And I don't want to hear nothing about, well, they didn't do it. That was a long time ago. You can't lump them all up. When I walk outside right now, I am persecuted strictly because of an ideology against my people that was designed hundreds of years before I was born, but I'm still suffering from that ideology. I don't want to hear none of that. No more. So we got to be about solving problems. For the people that are out there, and I know there's many of you out there, I've met some of you, I know there's more out there, keep doing what you're doing. All I say and all I implore you, please share it. Whatever it is you're doing, share it. I know a lot of us would be like, I ain't, I don't want to spook sat behind the door and all that other stuff. If we don't get out and stop being paranoid, COINTELPRO effed us up, man. We got to get over it. I know there's a risk factor in everything we do, but you got to do it. I drive this truck every day. There's a risk factor every time I turn the key and put it in gear, but I got to do it to get where I'm going. We cannot fight. We're not underground fighters, family. We're above ground organizers. And you can't organize if you don't speak out. And yes, there are consequences that come with speaking. You're going to get dragged through the mud. You're going to get harassed. Your family's going to feel it. There is serious consequences with trying to speak up against oppression, but the consequences are far, 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 far smaller than the reward of liberation. And at the end of the day, that's what this is about. Liberation. Not validation, liberation. So I went over. I usually keep it under 15 minutes. I'm like at a half hour now. So I'm going to stop right here. And we can pick this up later. But as always, man, thank you for supporting, even listening. Please lend your opinions, like, share, comment, all that. You know, the little thing in the beginning of the video is share, comment. And I don't never say comment. I always say like, share, and whatever, but I need you to comment too, because your comments are what I really do this for. I don't do this to hear myself speak. I really dedicate myself to this journey of information so that I can spark discussion between us as a people. I want you to discuss as a people. I want us to talk. We don't always got to get along, but we have to talk. Because even if I disagree with you and I walk away and I'm still like, I ain't with that, at least I have a better understanding. And what cannot happen is COINTELPRO, the agent, the European system can never get between us again because I had a discussion with you and you had a discussion with me. So let's get together. Comment, share, like, subscribe. Let's help build this channel up, man. African talk. And even if you say you ain't African, I said you're African. There it is. I love you all, man. One people, one aim, one God, one destiny. Black power, free the land, man. It's our time. Wakusu.